And good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and welcome to Dreamy Dreamland with your sensei, Al Bob. Listen to the birds. Here we are at 47 seconds, and glad to see you guys. No one's here, there's no thumbs up. But as you watch this, if you would, please give me a thumbs up. Um, subscribe, hit that little bell, and send something to my PayPal, please. Right? That's the dude awake 42 at Gmail. And if you have any personal things you want to speak to the old griot here, again, my email, the dude awake 42g at gmail. Right? All small case, all one thing. So here it is, Monday. What day is it? What does the little magic box say it is? It is 9:05 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, July 10th. And boy, the month is slicking by. So, um, you know, I have, I live literally on $400 a month for everything: car insurance, medical expenses, the cell phone, gasoline, and my car is getting old. I've had to spend the last 4 or 5 months about $300 on fixing my car. I have to redo my whole front end. It's very much like America, you know. America, back in 1970, we went off the gold standard, and basically, Mr. Uh, Nazi boy, the banker guy, Rothschild. Yeah, that's it. But see, he's not, he's a nice Nazi, kind of like the Dow crowd, those guys. You ever watch them? Oh, we know everything, and we are in control, And there's what's his name, uh, movie star boy, sitting up front, right? Poster boy. I mean, it's interesting. Most actors, So I had a shot at, I went to, I was at 16. Herbert Berghoff and Uda Hagen had their theater school on 10th and Bank in the West Village, right? Really beautiful little neighborhood. And my parents lived up on 69th and Park in the what Imperial House, right? And it was right on the same street as Hunter College, and we actually looked. We were on a 21st floor, and we had a nice little veranda, and I could look down across the street at Hunter College, the girls' school, and I could see their gymnasium and their where the girls put on their kit, right, and took showers and snapped each other with towels and things like that. And so I was like, no more than 200 feet, like across the street from them. And I remember the first time I was like, "What's that? Whoa!" Right. And as soon as I did that, it was like an electric shock because I looked right down and the top of the window was open, right? For ventilation, right? So, and had these gigantic windows in the dressing room that were like, 12 feet high and 6 feet wide, and they lowered the top down about 2 feet. So, whoop, you see the whole thing, right? And as soon as I noticed, whoa, what's that? Um, the girls kind of looked up and said, "Oh, look at that!" And they started putting on a show. And they weren't like, "Oh my God, it's a man!" Oh no, they were like, "Hey, this is 1966, and ooh, look at this! Hey, kid, look at these!" Right? And this one girl, and they just started doing it every time they noticed I was up there. They put on a pretty good show, and then I did too. They watched me, wee, and we had this mutual assured pleasuring thing, right? And it's about third day into it, this girl put a little, took a piece of paper. Hey, come on down. I'll meet you in front of, at the front gate there, and let's go have coffee. That's when I learned when a girl asks you, "Do you want to have coffee?" what that means. And Carol Ann was her name, and she was from South Carolina, and she was a Catholic girl. Woo. So, why am I talking about this at nine what? 9:09. That's why I'm telling you. It's one of those synchronistic moments. Nothing is what it seems to be. Right. This was the height of women's lib, 66 to 69, at least the first, not, really. The girls were going at it back at from Seneca Lake, where what's his name? Gandhi understood civil disobedience and nonviolence from the women's movement in the United States, right? And when they had the big conference in like 18, right after the Civil War, they realized it was going to take 100 years, right? And they didn't have guns and they couldn't fight the guys. And so they said, well, this is going to take, but it'll be fun. It'll be interesting. And they did, right? Still haven't gotten the women's, equal pay thing yet, and any of the above. But the real thing about it is that men are worthless, right? Men are children, right? They hold grudges, they whine, they cry, they want it their way, right? And pretty much, if you read the Bible, I've been reading the Bible a lot, and the Bible is an amazing book. It's a tool, and in the right person's hands, like Paul. He if it wasn't for Paul, we wouldn't have the King James. Wasn't for Paul, we wouldn't have had a Christian religion, right? Wasn't for Paul because he went out to the heathens and the Romans, right? He was one of them. He was a Pharisee, right? He was a Gajing, and he was a Strufla. He was a Guido, and but he met Jesus on the highway, right? And it changed his life, right? And he had a character actor named Barnabas, who was his mentor, right? And who is our real mentor? But God. God is our real mentor. When he was talking to Moses as the burning bush, hey, go get those Hebrews out of Egypt. Why should I? They suck. That's what Moses said. I was one. They kept it from me, and then they diss me. All they did could talk smack about me, and it got so bad that even though the Pharaoh loved me more than his son got upset and again whined, "Daddy, Daddy, get rid of Moses," and so they had to chase him out, and so had to run all the way across, right, almost into Asia Minor, and found this guy up top of the hill who was really smart and really fun and really good, had a hot wife and 3 daughters, I think, and Moses married one of them. And he had been there for almost 30 years just being a shepherd, and he was having a good time. He had a guy he could talk deep about the book, and he's surrounded by women just like me at that college. Pretty much every time I would go to a college on my own, just kind of hanging. Um, this is my Captain Anthony. So this is when it's up like this, I look like a Marine, right? When it's down like this, I look like the Captain Antonia, right? No, the burning bush said, "Go get those chuckleheads out of Egypt," and Moses said, "Why?" And God knew. Don't you want to know my name? and that was like too good for Moses. No one knew God's name. No one even knew God. No one, God's this mysterious, you know, white guy sitting on a gold throne, a toilet meaning, up in the clouds, shitting on everybody. Well, that wasn't God. Sorry, God is not a vengeful God. You know, in the Old Testament, all that smiting really wasn't God doing it. The best example is Sodom and Gomorrah. All those. God said to what's his name? Hey, find me, 100 guys, and that town will be okay. 100 guys who are righteous in the word, right? And that guy couldn't. He said, "How about 50? Okay, 50." I looked around for 50. Couldn't. How about 25? Okay, 25. Okay. How about 10? Okay, 10. How about 5? Okay, 5. How about 2? And then God said, "Find me one guy other than you." He couldn't because they were fornicating. And I don't know if you know what. Does anyone there know what fornication is? Come on, come on. Fornication ain't, and fornication ain't. What fornication is the disconnection of the individual from the Godhead, from love's co-creation. Where it's all about me. I'm the greatest. I can do anything. It's all about me, me. And he's saying any one little thing about you, Mom, I'm gonna kill him. I'm gonna kill him. I'm gonna kill him. So you got the drift of today's show. What do you know? Where are you gonna go? Anyway, so uh, let's see. Oh, I drooled on my phone. Ew. Do. So a good example is, the schwabbiness of it all. Oh, there I am live. What do you really know? Yep. The end of the war is coming. The end of the war is coming. The end of the war is coming. I don't think so.
American Christians could soon have a painful and traumatizing 2024. And I'm not talking about the decline of morality or politics. I'm not even talking about the ongoing targeting and persecution of Christians. This event will be a once-in-a-lifetime situation that could challenge the very existence of America.
Uh-oh.
I'm Lance Wallnow. For over 30 years,
Hey,
I've been
Lance.
accurately forecasting upcoming events for my patriotic Christian.
Former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev delivered unexpected news to Russian President Vladimir Putin.
Unexpected.
When it was reported that Dmitry Medvedev met with high-ranking American officials, Russian President Vladimir Putin was taken aback. Medvedev has achieved an agreement with America to depose Putin from the throne. The conflict between Russian President Vladimir Putin and Prime Minister Dmitry Medvedev has reached new heights. Dex Medvedev, Russia's long-serving president, has begun moves to dethrone Vladimir Putin, whose influence is beginning to wane. Medvedev, who hasn't been seen in public in a long time, apparently paid a secret visit to America.
Ooh.
The question of why Medvedev,
where'd he go?
who
Disneyland. He went to
surprised Kremlin
Disneyland.
officials with his words, made some time after the Russian army invaded Ukrainian land, suddenly reversed sides, was beginning to pique people's interest. After us, officials revealed that Israel was secretly supplying ammunition support to the Ukrainian army. Medvedev's words surprised everyone. Following the U.S. confession, the Israeli government agreed to providing weapons support to Ukraine, but also maintained that the vast majority of these munitions belonged to the U.S. The words were somewhat shocking given that Russia was anticipated to sharply criticize Israel's backing for Ukraine. Medvedev, a personal buddy of Vladimir Putin, was roundly chastised in the Kremlin for his actions.
So, what does all this mean? It means this is a scripted show, right? This means that this is the kicker. The kicker. What is a kicker? Whenever you're trying to change the narrative, you need a kicker or a hook, either the hook or the kicker. And we got, the hook was the existential threat, and the kicker is all the people dead and all the buildings blown up. But boy, that's going to be a lot of contracts, I can tell you. Woo! So, and you, American citizen, going to pay for it. Sorry, not the rich guys. No, they're going to get another tax break. They need it. You know, and basically, the Inflation Act. Everything that the government puts out is the opposite. So the Stop Inflation Act is basically increase inflation. But what was that about? The kicker to that was the 19. The thing where people seem to get sick by having sex with bats in China in what they call wet wet shops. It's kind of just like the pizza parlors that the Democrats used to allegedly do things in the basement. So it's all the kicker and the hook. And unless you, as a citizen, is informed, and you can't get informed by watching Fox News or watching that moron I just, and watch out, Christians, you're at threat. Oh, really? Really? I don't think so. I know, camps for Christians in the United States. There may be soon, but um, I don't think they have to worry because most Christians are so unchristian that they're not Christians. All they are thinking about themselves. Me, right? Even when they're in fellowship talking about the Bible, it's always seen through a narrative lens of me. Feel guilty, give us money. They talk about what denomination are you? What Christian denomination are you? $5 bill, a $10 bill, a $20 bill, $50 bill. What denomination are you? Right? God is not involved. He is not the big daddy on the toilet, right? Candace, hey there. What's shaking, Candace? Have you been following? What do you know, Candace? What do you know, right? And I'm trying to talk about whatever I'm talking about. And if you been Candace, how long have you been watching this show? Right? Have you gotten any kind of insight on what the show is about and how I do it? Right? Everyone seemed to have come to this show through my telling the story of the old crone. Just a few minutes, right? So just a few minutes that you notice this channel is on the YouTube, or just a few minutes this show. And so I assume it's just a few minutes of the show. So if you realize that basically I do this stream of conscious, right? None of this is scripted. Just tuning in. So because everything else is basically scripted. Everything you see on the media, anything, any government, whether it's from the dog catcher in your neighborhood or the president, um, is basically scripted because all those folk are basically paid actors. I saw DiCaprio in the front row of the Davos crowd. The old crone is how I came to know you. Yep. So after stumbling, I mean, my whole life is like the old crone, if you haven't noticed, right? And the old crone is like Jesus Christ. The old crone is everywhere and always with us. But you have to step away from me, 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 me. It's all about me. It's all about me. It's me, me. I'm the greatest. Yeah, me, 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 me. No, what was the real? You tell me, Candace. What was the real draw? What was the hooker? What hooked you on the old crone? Do. Give it a thought. Absolutely. Yep. And that's why meditation is a great tool for doing that. So we're going to do that right here, right now. Thank you for adding that. See, this is what the cadre is supposed to be, someone interacting with the community to bring forth ideas that go, oh, let's do this. They were T's. There were three T's. The one T that made you work real hard, gave you energy, go out there and cut a cord of wood in an hour, right? Split it, cut it, and you wouldn't even sweat, right? The other T was about, when I go into the library and study herbal medicines and then go into our little herb uh, greenhouse and make poultices and such, right? And the third was to connect with love's co-creation, So like you could talk to the animals, you could talk to anybody. Didn't the third T was the thing that brought you back to what we were before the Tower of Babel. Well, she drank the same stuff, she, but I could drink. She sent me off to do work in the garden, cut wood, fix things. She'd give me, it was like the mix of, you know, iced tea and lemonade, Arnold Palmer. That's what she'd give me, right? The third one was another elixir, and it was kind of like she would also make this stuff called oh, ambrosia, which like put you in a really good mood. Those three pots of tea daily in my house. Well, you can. Here's how. Ready? Sit yourself in a comfortable chair. Don't cross anything. Don't cross your legs. Don't cross your hands. Don't hold your arms. Don't cross your eyes. Don't cross anything. And sit there. Breathe in. Right. And as you do that, you close your eyes and you see the you're breathing in the prana. And so, right now, see this is the shadow. Right? That's incandescent light. Prana has no shadow. It's scalar in characteristics, right? And so when you're breathing in that shadowless light, you are breathing in love's co-creation. And that's what animates our bodies. Because this thing here, this ain't you, you know? This ain't me. This is just a bag of water. This is my avatar so I can run around in the illusion of the material world and do stuff. But and that's what I was getting to when God was looking for one good man in Sodom and Gomorrah. I couldn't find anyone because everyone was fornicating, disconnecting from love's co-creation. So they were not breathing in that prana light, right? And they just, in an incandescent sense, right? And the good book says, the Bible, what that translated into Sumerian means book, right? And in the beginning, all things were dark. And then, you know, and what was that, big bang, that explosion of light? That was incandescent light. That was Lucifer, right? Lucifer, what's that mean? The illuminated one, right? The really good looking angel who thought he should be top dog. It's about me. Look how good I look. Yeah, baby. Yeah. Ooh, yeah. Don't you want some of this? And that's Lucifer, right? So That's the world we live in, the world of illusion, right? And we have a free will. We can choose to do that, but it's very simple. All you have to do is breathe. Right? Just breathe that prana in, right? And close your eyes. And when you do that, you illuminate your imaginary mirror. That's right behind your eyelids. That's where you have dreams, right? That's why this show is called Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Al Bob. Because if every show I do is a shamanic ceremony, right? It's all being illuminated by shamanic light. That's the window, the world view. I'm projecting into the World Wide Web, right? The guy who invented the World Wide Web at Stanford, he was an interesting guy. I forget his name. I can see his face. Tall ish. Um, he looked like he could be a homeless guy, but um, because he was always in deep thought about stuff, right? So, there we are. We're breathing, and we got our eyes closed, and we're seeing, the imaginary mirror where we dream, where we have REM sleep. Right? See that clearly, right? Well, sleep. And Candace, you need to get a hold of me at the dude awake 42 at Gmail. That's my email, right? Dude awake 42 at Gmail, right? And then we can converse, right? But for the show, I'm just going to move straight ahead here. So you got your eyes closed, you're breathing in the prana, you're illuminating yourself in the imaginary mirror, and that's where you can go to any place, anything. The dude awake 42 at Gmail. All one thing, all lowercase. The dude awake 42 at Gmail, right? So get a hold of me there. And so you're visualizing, and when you do that, you can, so you aren't your body, right? Your consciousness ain't in this thing, right? And your soul is all the soul is a fiber optic line going from the piece of cream cheese through through your chakras, through the cream cheese, up above, and shooting up into your Akashic record, which is simply a library of your spirit's experiences through all of its past lives and all the future. Because there is no time. It's just the moment right here, right now. Can't it's right at this moment. It's just you and me together, right? You got it down. The dude awake 42 at Gmail. Why don't you give me a jingle right now? The dude awake 42 and stay in state. Let's see you do that one, right? Chew gum and scratch your head at the same time, right? And yep, there I am, live. Dougie, Colonel Dougie. Now, if this boy ain't, a chore boy, I don't want that. Looks like a chore boy. And what is a chore boy, you say? It's the person who, and then the chore comes spurting in the mouth, and oh, wow, 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 and that's what that guy is, a chore boy. Right? So he'd been, speaking for the man since whenever, right? And that's what a chore boy does. Elon Musk, Jojo, the used car salesman, Donnie Carrot Head, they're all chore boys, right? You know, Donnie's, mentor, was a guy named, he's a lawyer. He was part of the congressional guys who barbecued people in the 50s. What's his name? Roy Cohen, right? And I was the house electrician of 54 the second time around. I redid it, right? So I kind of helped got rid of the problems that were in there and would go in, um, least once a week. I had these little, you ever go in an elevator and you see where it's been like signed off, right? So the inspector knows that someone's at least taken, because elevators are pretty dangerous things. So what I did was I printed up my license and put lines underneath it and put it in a little frame with glass so you could see it right at the front door. And it stated that I had inspected everything, all the exit lights worked, everything was up to ship shape, right? So what would happen is that these inspectors would come in and say, "Oh, I found a thing, and I'm going to close you down tonight." Well, big thing like Studio 54, that's 30 grand. I mean, those things were like, printing money. And so, you know, um, and 54 was, because underneath it just kept going down in the basement, the weirder and weirder things. And like, ooh, way down there were places where you could hang people up and do things to them, right? And that's where Roy and his cadre and his number one boy was, Carrot Head. You know, and haven't you noticed? Did you ever see Back to the Future? And there was Buff. If Buff doesn't look like Carrot Head, I doesn't know what is. And he's running the world, right? At least he thinks he is, right? He's not really, but he thinks he is. Sent the email. Let's see. Yep, there you are, Candy. Candy Flower. Uh, yep. Yes, I got it. I got it. Yes, I got it. I got it. So send me some pictures of you. What do you look like? You know what I look like? Here's me. This is me. And now you can get a hold of me as much as you want. My one limitation, I have to drive someplace. That's why you always see me in my car or in a restaurant to get online. Okay. So, and see, the rest of you guys, this is how easy it is to get a hold of your Sensei Al Bob. And you can do this. You can send something on the old PayPal, because I could surely use it, right? Because I live on $400. I know most of you have no money, right? But what's truly interesting, up until last Thanksgiving, I would get, 50 to 100 bucks every month from a bunch of people. And pretty much everybody, were barely making it and would send me, $10, 15 bucks, 20 bucks. But once in a while, there'd be somebody who was rich and felt guilty and would send me 50 or 500 or 1,000, which was great. Right? But I don't need it because I live on 400. I live like a millionaire on 400, sometimes a little, but I don't worry about it. I let God take care of everything. Right? Okay, let's see if this thing gets sent. Boo, 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 boo. Did you get that, Candace? Okie dokie. I have a really good friend that she always says okie dokie. Right? I love it when she says. My Aunt Gracie used to say okie dokie. My Aunt Gracie was the sharper than a tack. She was like, got it. Was like, my Auntie Mame. She lived in this little teeny apartment, right, and it faced the Empire State Building. And she said she was brushing her teeth one day and she saw an airplane fly into the Empire State Building, right, and it got stuck in there. So it's pretty obvious, and it stayed there until they kicked it out and it fell down onto whatever avenue. It's Fifth Avenue, Empire State Building's on. But anyway, that's pretty much why it's understood that there were no airplanes that flew into WW1 and 2, right? Um, so, or the WC. What do they call those things? CW, WW. I'm not quite sure. Um, so anyway, um, where was I? Oh yes, back to dreamy dreamland, right? Got your eyes closed. You got your imaginary mirror, and it's a glistening golden. It looks like water, right? And it looks like you're a goldfish in a bowl, and there's the water shimmering, and you walk through it, boom, and zing, you're in the library. There you are in the library, right? You look in front of you, big fireplace, and everything looks like it's made out of these big bricks, and they're books, right? They're Akashic records, right? So. The big fireplace, just like Harry Potter, that's where people come and go through. This is like blue flame, not gigantic logs and stuff. Blue flame. That's the eternal light, right? The blue flame, right? And you just walk into the keep, and you could drive a train through this thing, right? Gigantic fireplace, and you walk in, and you step to that blue flame, bing, and you have conscious intent of where you want to go, bing, there you go. Anywhere on the planet in the material world, blue flame. Yep. So the so there's that, and in front of that is this nice little easy chair and couch and a coffee table where people come out of the keep, and you can have a nice little comfy conversation, in the easy chairs and the couch, and on the coffee table there's always something there, and what's there are it's a beautiful urn of coffee, the best coffee you're ever going to have. Another urn of um, a Middle Eastern kind of peppermint. You know, do you ever have really good Middle Eastern tea? Tea. Then there are the three pots. The one that makes you work real hard, the one that makes you think really well, and the third puts you in. And so you go to your Akashic record, sit down at that easy chair, and there it is. And on this silver plate, there are all these yummy things that are made from the ambrosia. So you have one of those little donuts. Ooh, baby. So blue flame. Yep. So you're sitting down, and you've got friends, and not just people but anybody you want to talk to. You want to talk to Jesus, he'll come right out that blue flame, sit down at the easy chair, and have tea and crumpets with you. Right? That's what crumpets are. Those little things on a silver platter, made from ambrosia. See it clearly. Mr. Woodpecker is hard at work. And so you're sitting there, and behind that is your reading table, right? And there's a light coming down, and see how there's no shadow on his hand? That's because it's being illuminated with shamanic light. It should have a shadow, but no. That's because right at this moment I'm kind of using this window of the World Wide Web to generate a shamanic wave, a scalar wave. That's what prana light is from. Scalar. Go look that up. Nikola Tesla, you name it, Plato, everybody knew about this stuff. Anybody who was enlightened, listening, feeling. Yep. And just visualize. Do you have a dog, Candace? Are you a dog girl or a cat girl? So if you're a dog girl, you realize you hang out with your dog, and you realize that your dog sees, feels, experiences everything through its nose. It has smell-o-vision. Right? So I'm a dog boy, cats and dogs. Okay, you're an animal lover, right? Any ferrets? Any? You know, I'm just a dog boy, but um, I had a girlfriend. I had women in my life. They weren't girlfriends. That's like for teenagers. Even as a teenagers, I had women in my life, not girlfriends. I did have girlfriends back in grammar school when I showed up at this grammar school in third grade, and they had just rejiggered that whole school system. It went from being a very rural thing with little red schoolhouses to taking what had been the major high school and made that the grammar school, and they built brand new high school and middle school, brand spanking new. Lots of critters, right? But not a ferret. Anyway, and so when I showed up there, all those little red schoolhouses, there were cliques in this grammar school of this red schoolhouses, and now we were all in one big thing. So the first day I showed up, had my little paper bag with my peanut butter jelly sandwich, and went to sit down. You can't sit here, not one of us. You know, I was experiencing what it is to be the other. I said, "Oh, good. Don't want to." And that has been my claim to fame. I can twig what people are immediately, so I don't have to waste my time with them. Right? Rats were my favorite. Exactly. I was getting to the rats. Right? Did you hear my riff on rats? And so basically, girlfriends. So I went and found an empty table after being, rejected by a number of other crews, and sat and was, looking in my same as always, but peanut butter and jelly, barely made, poorly made. And this guy comes up to me, kid, and he's I'm a short little kid, and this kid's even shorter than me, but he's wearing a suit. He looks like James freaking Bond, right? So I you're a cat by nature, right? I love, most of the women I've been with have been feline, right? Especially the exotic dancer ladies in my life, and that's the one I was going to get to about the rat. But girlfriends. So this guy looks just like James Bond. He goes, "Can I sit here?" So I said, "He goes, you're new to the school too?" I said, "Yep." I said, "Pretty much everybody here is new to this school, but we don't belong." He goes, "Yeah, what do you got for lunch?" And I pull out a peanut butter jelly sandwich. He goes, and he had a picnic basket, right? So he goes, "I'll trade you." And he slides the picnic basket over, and there's a thing of soup, a meatloaf sandwich with this, homemade bread. It was like, a piece of blueberry pie with cream on it. And I was like, "Yeah, here's my, I love peanut butter. My mom never makes it for me." And so I'm like eating that thing up, and we're just talking. "You want to see my gun?" Why he looks like James Bond? He pulls out a Walter PBK, James Bond's gun. He puts in. He has this little. He takes the napkin out of the picnic basket, puts it on, and takes the gun apart and explains it all to me. And we're in a cafeteria. There's teachers everywhere. Does anyone say anything? No, because we're all about me, me, me. I'm just thinking about me. I'm thinking about me. And we're quiet over in the corner. We're not making any noise. We're not, pushing the envelope. No one has noticed this guy has a lethal weapon. And anyway, he puts it back in his holster, and he goes on and goes, "So, can you be my friend?" And I said, "Sure." He goes, "Can you be my best friend?" I said, "Why not?" And he goes, "You want to come to my house after school and meet my mom?" And I said, "You think she can drive me back home?" Because my parents live kind of out in the sticks, not in the little town. So anyway, I said, "Sure." So after school, we walk to his house, and walk in, and his mom is like, Doris Day and Loretta Lynn and you name it, all put together. And she's wearing this like evening gown, and she has a double bandolet of bullets, and it's like a bustier, and she's got two pearl handled 45s. I'm like, this family was gunned up, and the mom and the dad's parents, their grandparents, grandfathers started the NRA, right? And they were both in the Civil War. These his my buddy's mom and father's grandfathers were in the Civil War, and they weren't just like hicks out there shooting people. No, they were like officers. Went to West Point, and what the problem with the North was, The Southerners, everybody who was in the Southern Army knew how to shoot a gun, right? Nobody in the North, because they were just people just came off the boat and working in a factory someplace, right? And so the NRA was put together by the military industrial complex to be a civilizing entity in the American culture that was about guns. It wasn't about Second Amendment. The Second Amendment had nothing to do about our freedom. It was all about slavery. The Southerners didn't want to join the Constitution. They were very happy to have the English buy all their cotton. They made more money. They said to the New York Stock Exchange, if you go against slavery, we'll take all our money out of the stock exchange, which is very similar from what the legislatures in the United States are now doing um, with passing laws stating that if entities like colleges pass rules that their endowment funds are not going to invest in oil and deadly things like weapons, well, the state is going to like take all of their state rights away from them, especially state schools, right? And what's interesting is that colleges and other institutions, and now investment banks are doing the same thing, and states are going, "Oh, you can't do that." So it's really so states like New Jersey and Texas and Florida and North Carolina and Tennessee and Georgia et al. Have passed laws stating that any state entity that does that is going to get axed, right? And a number of these states have passed in that law has stated that if you are going out on the street and having civil disobedience, you're going to be arrested under the Patriot Act as a terrorist and sent to Gitmo. About 18 states have this on their books. This is another good one. Just like I'm not a big fan of abortion. Right? I worked in hospitals. I worked in women's rights. I worked in. I started the first. I didn't start. I assisted a number of women who started the first women's shelter in New York State, because New York State legislators, oh, women don't need this. They know they ain't going to get into that problem. They always have a man taking care of them. They don't need this. No. So and that's where we're at. But whenever you do something stupid like this, you have an unexpected consequence. And all these states who have passed laws, and they haven't just done it yesterday, they've been doing it for the last oh since Obama, right? And Obama was more neoconservative than friggin' Carrot Head. You know, Carrot Head was a liberal. You know, you know. It's, love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. America's going through this, self reflection of self destruction of whatever people think America is, because we're coming out on the other side. JoJo has put trillions of dollars into the pockets of rich people, and that anti-inflationary thing, he is rejiggering all manufacturing to be done here by AI. You're not getting a job, sorry. What you're going to get is, a check, like me, $400 a month, right? And I live in a tiny house, right? Um, so that's going to be no one's going to own anything. No one's going to own a car, and there's going to be the Tesla wireless scalar electric is going to be like that. Soon as this all goes down, soon as we get rejiggered, soon as the big splat happens, the reset, and all of this happens, where they go, oh, look, we found a flying saucer, and it has this. Look, we have time travel, and we can go faster than fast, and we have free energy, and it be everywhere, and we will have Star Trek, right? We'll have the Federation, and we will be attacked by an alien species that will obliterate, all the things that the power structure doesn't want. Say goodbye to New York, L.A., all the troubling spots of people trying to do something righteous, alien technology, right? But people like Ben Franklin and Plato and Nikola Tesla invented this, and a whole bunch of other people in between. Like no one. Does anyone even know who invented TV? A guy named Farnsworthy. He was a farmer out there in the Midwest, right? And he was looking at all. He had his mule, and he was like, had all these rows of plants, and that's where he got the idea of the electron gun, right? The scanning electron gun. So there are tons of people that did amazing things. I spent one summer working at the Library of Commerce in the patent office, right? So I learned all about how to write a 501c3, right? How to do grants, right? That's why I was there. I was sent there to learn the ins and outs, the arcane motifs of that, right? So anyway, they're gonna, and we're gonna have, they're talking about, oh, there's secret, gonna have a secret, Putin's out, and we're gonna have, right? But no, what's going to happen is, yeah, there's all this. So, in diplomacy, you don't talk about it until it's a done deal. So now they're talking about it. So what's Putin going to do? He's going to nuke, and so the people in Poland, their security folk arrested a bunch of folk who had been spying for Putin on the delivery chain of all these weapons, right? And so now we're sending them, um, you know, um, cluster bombs. That's one that's across the red line. So what's going to happen is Putin's going to really, and he's done this already. He just sent his cruise missiles to a city right on the border of Poland, as far away from the war as you could get. And these people, they when they hear the horn go up, they just turn over and sleep. Right. Anyway, they got hit this last weekend, and one of these cruise missiles slammed into a big housing block that caught fire, and 4 or 5 people died. Isn't that terrible? Are you familiar with Dr. Stephen? Oh, I know Stephen Greer. I lived in Asheville, North Carolina, when he was in emergency room, a doctor, right? I knew that boy, right? And he had me wire his family comes had been there forever, and this guy's had, he had been anally probed a good deal. I mean, I think he is a reptile. Look at his face. He's worked with whistleblowers. I know Corey Good and all of those guys. I was part of that scene in the freaking 70s, the new age crowd, right? And us technologists were on the side. I had this NGO in the UN called Alternative Technologies. So yeah, I still know Greer. He's. I haven't seen him since the '90s. I left that scene in the '90s because all these folks are being used. All of what Greer. I mean, he's really a great guy. He's doing a good job, but again, he's being used. Nothing gets out unless it's being used for the narrative that Hail Hydra wants. What do you think about Corey Good? Again, I know Corey. Yeah, I know it. I mean, one reason why I stepped away, guys, Preston Nichols, Al Bielek, um, Duncan, um, Dirk Dorge, who was an alien. He was our alien buddy. He was about 8. He was a tall Nordic, right? And we were being used by DARPA, and it was straight out of Indiana Jones. This girl, her name was, oh, what was her name? Annie Oakley, or some famous female gunslinger, and she wore buckskin everything, and her skirt came up to her hoo-hoo, no underwear, and she was hot to trot, baby. But she was our handler. Boy, did she handle us! And these boys hadn't touched trim ever, so this girl, she'd bend over and everybody. And me, I was just there because I was good at having everyone um, play nice with each other. That's my one of my skill sets. I'm a good diplomat. Good, I'm a good shrinky boy. I can read your palm. I can, and I think, and pretty much in that technical sphere, everyone has their little thing. I know pretty much a lot about everyone's little thing, and I can weave those threads together. So I was part of this crew, right? And we had this house out in eastern Long Island near Montauk, and I was involved in the Stop Shoreham campaign. I was working at Brookhaven, and I had a contracting business, and I was building houses, and I was doing a lot of stuff. Still doing art in New York, still part of Collab, still doing our TV show on. Go look it up. The TV show called a Potato Wolf, and collaborative artist projects was, and we had art galleries. We were the first people who got NEA money, and instead of being like rich and putting it into the opera and the ballet, which is nothing wrong with that. I worked at Lincoln Center, I was a uh, Emmy at Carnegie Hall. I was part of that group. You know, like I said, I worked for. You couldn't get any more elitist than Herbert Berghoff and Uta Hagen. Potato Wolf. Yep, go Google that one. I did a show called Between the Lines. I had this girlfriend. Oh, what's her name? What was her stage name? She was a stand-up comedian, and again, she was. I had this because I built titty bars for the mob. The titty bars. They had the back room where they had the peep show, where the guy would go into a little box. Whoops, a little box, and he would point coins, not U.S. printed coins, because that's against the law to do this, but these coins the mobsters coined, and they weren't for like spending. They were only used in these machines. They were a certain size. Put them in there. You turn the knob, and you'd have 5 minutes. Go click, 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 and would come up. Right. You put in another coin, and then you could get on a phone and talk dirty to the girl. Right. And you put two more coins in there, and another little door would open up, and the girl's hand would come into the little box where your Johnson was, right, or whatever part you wanted. Peep shows, yep. And that little apparatus was like first built in the 1890s, right? And a good portion of all of that hardware was still from the 1890s, and you start breaking down. And my godfather, my electrical godfather, Grandpa Stoll, right? He he was the first electrician. He was Nikola Tesla's bench electrician. Tesla would go into state, make a drawing, give it to Grandpa Stoll. Grandpa Stoll would make it, right? That guy was so he was my mentor. You know, he was my Barnabas. Go look up who Barnabas was in the Bible, right? I'll cut to the chase. He was Paul's mentor, right? You know. So anyway, um, Finelli, Mike Finelli was my mobster, and Mike Finelli he had these little rolls that were like heaven in all fancy restaurants, right? You do not get them. He in every bar, if you had a beer tap, he didn't sell the beer or anything, just the tap. He had all of the linchpins of all these different things, made a fortune. And he was the diplomat between all the families. He didn't have a stick in a fight with anything. He had his own shtick. He wasn't doing prostitution, he wasn't doing any of that. But he knew all the guys who were. So he would send me off. They need an electrician. There I was. And these guys were great. They paid in Benjamins, right? I mean, they didn't, their denomination, nothing smaller than a Benjamin. They didn't fool around with a $5 bill. So anyway, he sent me up to these guys who had all these peep shows in 42nd Street, and not just there, but all over the place. And they said, this don't work. So I said, well, there's no fixing this. I'm going to have to like build you a new one. And they said, wait, how long that going to take? I said, well, and that's kind of where they went into. They used to have go-go clubs. These girls would be in these cages and dance to music, right? Well, that's where that kind of titty bar thing kind of came in. While because they actually made way more money at the peep shows because they had the guy in a little box, right? Not just buying, he just kept putting these coins in. These coins were $5 a coin, right? You buy, these guys would buy $100 worth of those coins and zip through them in a good 20 minutes. Peep show, I mean, in a titty bar, you don't have that kind of turnover. So anyway, I'd be working on it. So I met all these girls, right? So virtually and these girls liked me, because I was smart. And more than half, three-quarters of the women who were in that were in it not because they were prostitutes or drug addicts or anything, but yes, there were a number of those, but those are poor people who slipped on the path, right? No, these girls were saving every nickel, and they had a dream. They're going to be a lawyer, a doctor. They're going to build a business, something, right? And so these girls were sharper than sharp, right? But they didn't have daddy, like the girls at Hunter. They didn't have to ever worry about money, right? So these girls came from a place where they did have to worry money. So they were going to be serious. So anyway, they met me, and I wasn't like one of those guys putting the coins in. I read books, I knew people, I took them places that, wow, this is fun. You run this nightclub? You own this? No, I'm just the electrician. I took them to Lincoln Center. We went in the stage door, and you know went in the stage door. What they said, and there's this box like the presidential box. President's never there. I take her to the presidential box, and the presidential box has a bar and goodies. It's like guys going to football game, right? I mean, that's, girl go out with me, I show him a good time. So these girls like, wow, and he's not really asking anything, right? He's just, sounds lucrative. Yep. So so these girls were it's a long way to get to rats, right? So this one girl, her stick was animals, right? And so she was like, Eve, that was her name, Eve, and she had all these props, and she had her own box, right, and her own clientele, and it was down, and it wasn't on 42nd Street, it was down on Pearl Street near Wall Street. So all those guys with some serious money went in there, and they didn't put coins in the box, right? They just, you know, went in there and paid, um, you know, lots to go in the box, and then when the thing opened, the first thing that opened was the little box where her hand would come out, and she'd go like this. She had buttons she could push. Right, guy would put a Benjamin in her hand. She'd put the button, and she would, and inside there, she had cats, she had snakes, she had big spiders, and she had um, rats, and so she was like the Garden of Eden, right? And so she would let the animals go into different parts of her body. And the rats were amazing. They would crawl right in her hoo and clean it out for her. Right. So, she and I became um, familiar. And I would sleep. She had a beautiful place in the West Village. Right. And she knew a lot of people I knew in the West Village. And so, anyway, I remember waking up and this rat was cleaning my ear out. It was like really getting in there, licking it out, and I heard her go, "Oh, oh," and I saw a bunch of them in different parts of her, fun house neck of the woods. You know, cleaning out the septic line, as it were. I mean, these are experiences that most people don't have, right? But they should, because it puts things into perspective, right? What's really important, what really matters. The stupid crap people tell you in church, they don't, and those guys are like, all they're thinking about is, the denominations, right? And to control you and to manipulate you and run your life and to do all of that. Not to say that religion or spirituality or whatever you want to call it, that's important. I mean, we are spiritual beings. This is an electrochemical device, right? That allows us to have spiritual experiences with, you know, love's co-creation. That's what it's about. Love's co-creation. So, here I am out in the woods in, the Garden of Eden, and I've been here 20 years. Last 18 was truly amazing because it was just me and Mr. Bunny and Madam Butterfly and all the other creatures who they would just come. And where my little deep green is, if I ever get internet down there, Well, maybe I'll just take a video. Do I have videos? I don't know. No. Whoops. Stop it. Get over there. Anyway, so 1 hour, 5 minutes, and 12 seconds. So that's what life's about. And I've had that life my whole life. I am what, yep, absolutely mind, heart, cohesion, and everything else. Those are just two rough little spots there. Mind is, just a cream cheese, right? You should really call that, what you're looking at as consciousness, not the mind. Mind is just a cream cheese. And you have three brains. You have the cream cheese between your ears, which is a mechanism that connects your sensory, your limited sensory organs, your eyes, your ears, your mouth, your nose, to your central nervous system, right? And your central nervous system, your heart, is the CPU. I mean, it has more juice and more connective information lines than your cerebral nervous system, right? You have 9 pulses in your body. You have 9 information systems in your body. And the where your hard drive is your gut, your colon. Boy, I had a good idea about something, right? So anyway, so that period between 1966 and 1988, I was Mr. New Yorker, but I spent more than half that time all over the world. As soon as Freddie Laker, you could get for $45 when he started. $45, you could get a flight from Kennedy to Heathrow. $45, like 19 whenever he started, 70 something, right? And he had one 747, and it flew. He had two going each way, and he had, right? So he couldn't afford a gate, so he had a in where the Pan Am building was built kind of on top of Grand Central Station, which is one of the most amazing buildings still there. It's like the great cathedral to trains, um, because the light coming in is amazing. So anyway, Pan Am building was built on top of it, right? And Park Avenue goes, that train station. The main thing was Park Avenue, right? And so when they built it, the road went right through it. And so then they said, no, what we're going to do is the road comes up, it elevates, and it goes around in one lane. And that's when they made Park Avenue one way, and one way the other way, right? Instead of all the other avenues would just go one way. Right? Fifth Avenue goes uptown, no, downtown. Sixth Avenue goes uptown, right? So anyway, so Park Avenue goes around the Grand Central. And so underneath where the elevated road is are all these little stores because they kind of had to build it out to elevate the road up. And you have 6 major entrances into Grand Central, and all the subways go there too, right? So at least the IRTs, the ones on the east side. So had all these stores, everything, and as basically New York City went bankrupt from 66 to 92. It was like, in 1970, they had 30,000 cops, and one day, and then the next, they had 8,000. Talking about defunding the police, right? And they didn't pick up garbage, they didn't mow the lawn, they didn't do, but it was like, that movie Escape from New York, that's what it was like. But it was great because you could do anything. That's when the art scene in Soho exploded, right? Because we were doing stuff that most times, like in a movie, oh, don't do that. Oh, that's terrible. Oh, you're a commie. No, no one cared, right? So, and that's kind of when I was, a teenager in the 60s, right? I was a young lad in the 50s, teenager in the 60s, 70s, 1970, I was turned 20. And so anyway, Freddie Laker, he had this little storefront. I mean, one of the smaller ones. Freddie Laker Airlines, right? You went in, they opened at 10, and They usually sold out by 1 or 2, and you went in there, and they had these English sandwiches, tea sandwiches on a tray. You could just go in there and eat them, right? And, um, as you would come in and you would, they had a counter, and they also had a place that you could, like, they were like travel agency, right? So what I would do, I would go in there, and if you basically went through this little, you know, had like a fence around this lady's desk, you went in there, you could get yourself a sandwich and a cocktail. Freddie was big on cocktails, right? And she had, they had um, Patty's Irish whiskey, which was against the law in America. I mean, you could have it, but you couldn't sell it, right? And Patty's Irish whiskey was the IRA's major gun money, right? It was the best whiskey, best Irish whiskey you'd ever have, right? It was like ambrosia from the gods. So I would go in there, right? I'd sit down and, hey, Madge, how you doing? Right? She'd like, slide the tray. I just made these. Here, I'll have some sandwiches. I'd have some sandwiches. How are the kids? Blah, blah, blah. She goes, so you going today? I said, of course, because I wouldn't go in there unless I was going that day. I said, what seats you got? And they were all one seats, right? There was no first class, second class seats. 300 seats. That's it, right? And upstairs was a disco. 747 had the upstairs, the lounge, and they really lounged it out up there. So there was no class in that. There was no like first, second, third class. Other Pan Am had like 10th class. So very class airlines, Pan. It had no class whatsoever, but very racist, very everything, right? So basically, you go into Freddie, you sign up. But what was great about Freddie Laker, you could get other things. You wanted to get, if you're going to go there and you wanted to, be in some place, travel agent, they were really connected. They were like Airbnb before Airbnb. And you could, they had a whole list of hostels and, ladies who, bed and breakfast kind of things. And you could set up a whole little trip or places. And if you wanted to stay in a place for weeks or a month, they had places you could rent out. I mean, really, really. So if you did this, I remember the first time I did that, someone, they just started up, say this place, Freddie Laker, 60, $48 to go to Heathrow, and they have, so I went down there, met Matt's first time, and I said, I want to go to, I want to go to Europe for 5 or 6 months. I just finished a project. I got some cash. I want to go to really great places that most Americans don't go to. That's, I want to go see. If I go to France, if I go to Paris, I want to go to some place that's a neighborhood. So, oh, I mean, we got that. I said, yeah, I heard that you got that. So she managed laid me out a whole beautiful trip, you know, and she got me a Euro pass for a year for $20. I could ride any train, any subway, anything in Europe. And they just become the common market. They hadn't become the EU yet. And so I got that, and I got a place in Paris. I got I had already been to Dublin, so I've already been in Ireland. I knew that, but I was going to go. So, but I had friends, I had places. I didn't need that, and that Europass would get me on the ferry from Swansea to Cork. Right, so that's why I needed to get to Ireland. But I stayed a month in Paris at Rue. Oh, just out of downtown. It was still downtown, but it was in the first crummy neighborhood. And it was kind of over where the sewer line was going into the Seine, right? And so that's that. I spent in Munich. I went to Munich. I was there for Oktoberfest. That was kicker. Um, and I didn't even drink beer, but boy, do they have schnitzel. Ooh, I went to Bologna in Italy, right? And that was my base of operations. Kind of, you could easily get to any place in Italy from Bologna, right? And so that was a beautiful city, great food, great people, kind of near the mountains. Anyway, there's Colonel Sanders. Anyway, so none of this stuff was in a magazine. Do this, you'll be cool, right? I just did it, right? I just stumbled into everything. I am what is known as a lucky bastard, right? And now that I'm old and survived most of the, I mean, I've been shot twice. I drove a car off a 2,200 foot cliff and survived. We all survived. Car didn't survive, but we all did. Right? Got a little banged up, but anyway, because I always let God. I don't worry about anything. God's got my back. Period. I am a slave to God's unconditional love. I am not a servant. I don't bring cookies on a tray to God. No, I do whatever God tells. I have no idea what He's telling me to do, but it ends up to being whatever God wants me to do. He just invited me to Egypt to see the pyramids. Go, girl, go. All expenses paid. Can you take me? You know. Oh, John Boy stole my persona. And if you have a birth certificate, that is the kicker that you're a slave, right? That's your birth certificate. Go um, check out admiralty law. Go see Jordan Maxwell. Go look up Jordan Maxwell. He will give you a good primer on all of that. So yeah, you should take me along. Um, but see, I've done all of my traveling. I'm here to serve God. I died, and really, I am 100% here in service to God. I am God's slave, and God is a bad name. That's why I keep calling it, love's co-creation. And so, but yeah, I need basically. I have a couple of projects that I want to bring the band back together and take it on the road. I want to be. I knew all the boys who were on Forward, in the Dharma bumps. I knew all those guys. Allen Ginsberg was my room when I was 16. He was my roommate on 9th Street and Avenue B. Never left the country, not even to Canada. Egypt will be interesting. So text me if you're in. You live in America, Miss Candace? You live in America. Uh, Send me on my secured email your phone number, and I'll give you a call, and we can talk. My mouth to your ear, your mouth to mine. So anyway, 1 hour, 18 minutes. Two people there. Who else is it? AI. Who else is there? Candace has been a great. This is what the cadre is meant to be. Someone who comments like Candace has. She's. This is. We've been having a great conversation here. So, what time is it? How much juice do I have left? Yeah, I think I might. 46 minutes. Anyway, where were we? Oh yeah, Freddie Lake. So that and there's none of that now because I mean, I have friends who are real travel, inspired many people to be real world travelers and filmmakers, so they can write it off their taxes. Anyway, those guys. If you are Mr. Internet and you have miles on your flying whoop de doo, yeah, you can get some pretty good deals if you're ready to fly whenever the airline wants you and wherever the airline wants you to fly. You can get some pretty good deals. But Freddie Laker was the best. It was the doorway into Europe, into the world, because Madge would sign. The first time I went to Sweden with that Donna, um, I found that Swedish government sends its people on vacation, pays for everything, right? And the airplane ride, the hotel room, the meals, the adventure, everything, right? Because people in Sweden are basically nuts, and because basically they have 6 months where the sun never goes down, and they have 6 months where the sun never comes up. can tend to drive you nuts. It makes them interesting. And when they leave Sweden, they're really wild and crazy people, loads of fun. So I went to Sweden, and for a number of times, about 7 different times, I lived in Sweden, mostly in this little town called Fort Sugar, right in the middle, right on the main drag between Stockholm and Gothenburg. And I would just get on a bus. They had great mass transit. These buses were like coaches. They called them coaches. And you'd get on there, nice comfy chair. Within an hour you were in Stockholm. This thing would take you straight to the airlines. I would go into the international section. I'd go to the big board, and it would have a whole bunch of, you know, places to go. And if you're ready to get on the airplane right then and there, or within the next hour or two, you could go, right? You will go, you'd see it. You go to that little desk where they signed you up, and I had in Portugal, I had a driver's license that looked just like a passport, right? And that was my ID, right? I would go there, and I had got myself, certified as a citizen because that my driver's license kind of certified me as a citizen, at least of that little town and county. And so those people knew me. I would say, "Where do you want to go now?" I said, "Oh, let's go to Istanbul." "Oh, yeah, that's a nice place. Let's see what we got." "Oh, yeah, we got a nice trip, leaving in 2 hours." They'd sign me all up, and they would get me a visa, right? Every place I went, I would have a visa. Most people travel just with their passport, and you're like second class. You're a slave, basically, with a passport. But with a visa, you're a free do that dude. And it's the government saying, yeah, you can come in and be like us, right? That's what a visa says. So, I did do that. You know. That's how I saw Syria. That's how I saw Afghanistan. That's how I saw Iraq and Iran. And this is in the 70s. And, things hadn't popped off yet, but they were interesting. And I found that all those countries were actually, in a lot of ways, more freer than the United States, especially Libya. Libya was an amazing, 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 amazing place. I do this a lot. So, the thing is, uh, Candace, we should start a travel agency, right? And you will be the down, and I will be the guide, right? You need to find someone who's got some cash who can back this, who will be able to put together the legal aspects, and we go do this. Right? Take people on the guided tours of all the places I've been, all the people I still know over there. Would be we can make some serious cash, and these are the kind of things I used to do to make money, right? And I would make money. Wouldn't that be something? Wow. Yes. And see, it's not just we go do it. See, that's what I've done my whole life. I just go do it. I don't think, boy, it'd be nice if we could do. No, I just go do it. Right. And I'm just looking for the right crew. That's kind of why I came on this YouTube thing to suss out. Yeah, that vehicle. Now I'm smelling it. I see. I'm a dog boy, so I got smell of vision. Right. I can smell their poverty, their self doubt, their self guilt, their self hate. Right. That's like so. That's pretty much. If you smell any kind of hard hydrocarbons from coal or gas or oil, that is self-loathing, right? That's what that is. There's so much there. That's a beautiful thought, and it's more than let's make it a beautiful action. Spirit brought us. Yep, you got it, kid. You know, you've been watching this thing for a while. Wow. Oh, look, I think I'll go on to live chat and talk to Al Bob. Here he is, right here, right? We could have been done this 5 years ago. We hit it off like all souls. Yep. And where do you live? What part of the country? Do you live near Tennessee? I live in 60 miles of Johnson City, Tennessee, near ETSU. How far do you live from that? Where do you live? You don't have to tell me your address or anything, or even the town, just the neighborhood. Washington State. So you're over there in the West. No, that's not that far, right? And like I said, go check out what airlines have offered. You could fly into Asheville, North Carolina. That's. I was the dude there. Asheville is what it is because I kept doing stuff there. When I was there, it was like stuck in amber. It had been great, the Biltmores, the Astors, and all of the intelligentsia lived, hung out there until the Depression. And Asheville spent a lot of cash just in the 20s, just before the Depression, and they didn't finish paying off the Depression debt until 96. So from 29 until 96, Asheville was in amber. There was nobody there except really interesting, great artists. And that's why I say, and now it's like, it's the hell of culture. And I have a lot of friends who bought houses. I never bought anything there because I knew I'd get stuck there. Yeah, SeaTac to Asheville. Yep, I'll come get you. And you can come up to Deep Green. We'll take a little tour around here, and we'll make our plans. Well, I'm getting my butt's starting to hurt, and so and I haven't had breakfast. So, and I'm supposed to go meet Bud. Uh, so these are all things I have to do, and I'm very good at being on time. I used to be Mister Anytime. Now, and my battery's getting low. I still want to do another show later. So send me your phone number, Miss Candace, to my email. Anybody else want to get a hold of me? The dude awake 42 at Gmail. Send, if you're in America, I can only talk to people in America. I do have WhatsApp and Viber, but that, it's like going to the dentist setting that one up. And what else? Okay. Okie dokie. I love it. I love that. So, I'll catch you guys later. I'm gonna skip out of here right now. Talk to you later. Love you.